Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture with the rogues who create it every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on youtube.com/Rogue Matter, facebook.com/We Are Rogue Matter, twitch.tv/We Are Rogue Matter, and twitter.com/Rogue_Matter. We take this beautifully shot and produced video and run it through a washer machine, then a dryer. Then we kind of toss it around like a football a little bit, and somehow it ends up as the greatest podcast on all known audio platforms, including, I don't know,
but
Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, anywhere you can download finely crafted audio. Get it here. I am your host, Michael Dolce, as always, joined by the Lord of the Radio, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
Everything's fine. Everything is wonderful.
Everything's as good as it gets. We are also joined by fellow Rogue creator, Mr. STEVE HOVEKE, creator of MacBryde and Grum. How you doing, sir?
Friend of the show. Official friend of the show. And he froze.
Yes. I actually just thought he was sleeping for a second. I really thought he fell asleep.
Friend of the froze.
I love it. I love it.
He
well,
bailed
that's what
on
live
us.
is all about.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
We know you're still there. We just can't see you. You're not moving. Oh, he's gone.
No, he's gone.
He's gone.
No, he's gone. Very Halloween-esque, right here.
Yes.
Right there.
Oh, they got him. Oh, he's back.
He's back and
I
he's
was here
moving.
literally the whole time. You know what's funny, and I didn't think about it until after you guys started recording. But what I should have done is done like this, and as soon as you said my name, been like,
That's it.
I was at for an entrance.
That's the secret to a great entrance.
I wouldn't have been able to keep it together.
I guess what we could have done, and we should have done, was tell Aaron to pop you in after we announce you, which I guess is what we should do going forward with all.
We have no style, though. We're not like really clever guys. We're not.
I'd be fancy now.
I will.
Exactly.
No, I will disagree with you, Hassan. We are just all incredibly lazy. Because I was thinking of all these things, and I just said,
one half dozen of the other, man. One affects the other.
No sense announcing that to the world.
I would be clever if I wasn't lazy.
It's no different, actually. It's really no different. And I cut Hassan off. I cut Hassan off every week.
I saw you guys at New York Comic Con for a little bit, but in general, how you guys been?
Busy. Like just really busy. It's been a busy comic book producing year. Are you going to do one of those like social media posts where you post like your number of pages you've done, written, or created? Like, Hassan, are you going to do that? You ever see that? Like the artists, they do that, or the writers, they're like, in 2022, I wrote 7 comic books and 3,000 pages and blah 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 blah.
By December, I will have written 1,300 pages.
Look at
See,
you.
I know that's impressive.
I don't know if they're good, but 1,300 pages.
Well, neither do we, because none of us have seen them.
That's true, actually.
That's true.
It's a good point.
That's right.
It's a good point.
I could be lying about the whole thing. I could,
or the preceding 9,000 pages.
That's also very accurate. But hey, look, the point is you do it and you post it, and then everyone gives you likes and comments, and
I know,
and then you feel good. You get the dopamine hit, and it inspires you in 2023. I think
2023 is the name of the game in these last 2 months of just preparing for the tangled forest that will be the next year. And who knows,
I got to tell you, though, this has been a very, very positive year for me. Just me personally, I'm just speaking for myself. Very great year, because it feels like a normal year. It feels like I went from 2019 to 2022. It doesn't feel like 2020 and 2021. I got to go to conventions. They were jam packed. Got to just not be locked in my house all day, so it was good. Like I think I'm excited. I'm excited for the new year. I'm excited, but hey, let's not rush ahead here. We got 2 solid more months of free stuff on RogueMatter.com.
I gotta say, I myself traveled more this year than I ever have in any previous year before. I reached platinum level on United for the first time ever in my life for next year, so I'm very excited about the. Huh?
How does that happen? You just log a certain amount of miles and they give you like Like a piece of platinum?
It's number of flights and number of miles. You know, I went through. I've been silver before, but I'd never been gold or platinum, and I just hit platinum before I came out to this trip out to LA. So
I like it.
yeah, I'm all set for next year. I'm all good for platinum all next year, baby.
All right. Got to go. You got to hit the United Club. The lounges are the best part of flying.
Yeah, they're not bad. The thing is I like to spend so little time at the airport that I rarely have an instance to use them. But I actually did use one on this trip because I had a little snafu with my flight and was stuck at the airport for an extra couple hours. So I went and used one of my passes.
So I got to tell you, you're doing it all wrong. You got to get to the airport like 4 hours in advance, and then just hang out. Then just hang out at the lounges. It's like you got your Wi-Fi, you got your food, you got your beer or wine. Or,
I'd fall asleep and forget my flight.
I would rather just be at home until I have to leave.
No, I milk those I milk those things as much as humanly possible. And it's not just to get away from the kids. I was doing this long before I was even married, because it's
it's
just
funny.
a great place to hang out.
No one would have even thought that was why you did it until you mentioned that that's not why you did it.
No, Aaron just chimed in. Aaron just chimed in and said,
I didn't. Okay.
That's right. That's right. She, from Phantom Aaron from off camera.
That's right.
Just chimed in and said, get away from his kid. No. So years ago, we were going down to hang out with some friends in Austin, Texas. Great place to go hang out, by the way. And I told my friend, I was like, he's like, what time do you want to go to the airport? Our flight was like at 2 o'clock or something, or no, maybe it was a 3 o'clock flight. And I was like, yeah, we're going to get there at 11 o'clock. And he's like, what, are you crazy? I'm like, no, we're getting there at 11 o'clock. And he did. He's like, I don't understand what's going on. But I took him to the the lounge. He like put money down to buy beer, and the bartender's like, put that away. Your money's no good here. And he's like, Dolce, this is the greatest place I've ever been to. And he was just like, we were having a great time. In fact, we were having too great a time because our other friend who joined us almost got kicked off the plane for being too drunk. So there you go. You gotta take it in moderation. But I gotta tell you, Steve, take advantage. Take advantage.
Well,
you're platinum, baby. Use it.
That doesn't help me with the club. I still got to pay to get into the club if I don't have a pass. But yeah. But the thing is, dude,
you're platinum. You get in for free now.
No, you don't.
Oh man, they're just shipping everything, huh?
No, you don't. I have the United card, so I get 2 free passes a year, regardless.
There you go.
No, but I mean, but the thing is I literally get to the airport 30 to 40 minutes before my flight starts boarding. So I'm through secure. I have not had a flight this year. I have not had a flight this year where it took me longer than 8 minutes to get through security.
Okay.
So I don't care.
I'm
not getting there. I used to get to the airport 2 hours early because that was what you were supposed to do.
Sure.
Now, no way.
It's all about the destination with Steve. It's not about the process or the experience. It's all about
exactly.
The
once you fly more than 2 or 3 times a year, it's not about the journey anymore. It's about get me where I gotta go. I got to do.
Bing. So I had a great segue before, and then we got off on a tangent. All the stuff on Rogue Matter right now is free to read. It'll be free to read through the end of the year.
You want to segue?
At some point, user accounts will have to be created, but that's okay. And you can right now get issue 2, a preview of MacBryde and Grum. Steve, tell the folks out there about MacBryde and Grum.
Like what? Like a quick synopsis? That kind of to tell them about, or?
Oh yeah, tell them about
because they can go
the cover. Why would people want to read this wonderfully crafted?
Well, hopefully they read the first one and enjoyed it. So that would make them, I would think, automatically want to go read another issue. But so yeah, it's a new adventure with our 2 favorite detective types, and they get involved in what seems like a fairly innocuous, originally missing persons case, which then doesn't really materialize. So they think, oh, well, everything's over. And then something happens to draw them in, and then things kind of go a little sideways. So, and it sets up, it's going to be a 2-issue story. So issue 2 is the first half of which will be obviously finished in issue 3, and issues.
So you'd say a
4.
two-parter.
It is a 2-parter, and the following 2 parts, issues 4 and 5, are already written in the can, as they like to say. And
yes, I like it, using the lingo.
They sort of actually even continue on. They attach peripherally to this story, so there are little threads going out all over the place as I'm building this. So hopefully people will come back, like it, and we keep expanding the world and adding new characters, and it's a lot of fun stuff going on. I started writing another issue on the flight out here, so I've got about another diverse 10 or 12 pages of that already scripted, and that would be issue 6. And I've got the beats for the rest of the story all hammered out. So now it's just a matter of actually, fleshing them out and doing it. So
you do.
So yeah,
the majority of your writing on flights, right? Like that's my
thing, man. I'm telling you, after I finished the next 4 issues of MacBryde and Grum, and then I wrote a little short 6-page, a little 8-page sort of like background mini story, which will see the light of day somewhere, which ties into issues 4 and 5. Yeah. I needed a little palate cleanser, so I'm like, I looked through my idea notebook, and yes, that's correct, Aaron. Worst place to draw, other than the back seat of a car. Same kind of thing.
Well, it actually just depends on how cooperative your aisle mate is. If you sit next to them, and you hook up our table.
You start hitting turbulence and stuff. It's same kind of problem. It's like
it's just a little India ink. I'm sorry about your shirt.
But yeah, so I needed a little palate cleanser. So I wrote a short horror story, which I've submitted to another company to check out. A 22-pager. What did you say? There are other companies? What?
There are other companies.
So yeah, I wrote a quick 22-page horror story based on an idea I've had a number of years ago, and so I'm just waiting to hear back on thoughts on that. But then I've had a bunch of ideas in the last few weeks.
It's because you've been taking so many flights. That's why.
Well, not only that, but this is just stuff that pops into my head, or I'm doing something and I think, oh, that'd be a good kind of core idea to build a story around. So I was able to scribble down some stuff, and because I've had a couple of I don't want to call them false starts, but I've had a couple of starts on this 6th issue where I thought I had a good idea, but then I kind of got 8 or 10 pages in, and I was like, okay, now what? And so I'm like, all right, I gotta kind of come back and readdress this. So this one I started, I pulled in 2 other outside ideas and kind of combined them. And then it's a case of where on the flight, when I started kind of dropping out the beats of the story, and it all just kind of gelled. It's a weird thing when it happens. As fellow creators, I think will be able to understand exactly what I'm talking about. But it's like in some stories you'll be going along and you think you have it down, but you'll hit a point in it and you'll be like, crap, so what's next now from here? And how do I know where I need to get? I know where I need to get, and I can't get there. Yeah,
that is the biggest fear, right? Like you're staring on a cliff and you have to jump the cliff. And
or it's like, okay, so now it's a 13-page story instead of what should be a normal length story. It's like, I need another 6 pages in here. Luckily, my issue tends to be, because I don't write in what I consider to be especially in comic form, what I consider to be a normal, probably a normal comic book style, which is you kind of plan things out, you work things out, and you kind of write to a page count you try and hit that page count.
Sure. I
just start writing and I go. I very rarely, other than the beats of the story, I just go, and however many pages it ends up at, it just sort of ends up at. and then I have to try and work back if I want to try and shift page count, if I can.
Yeah.
I've been really lucky on the MacBryde and Grum stuff because it's all kind of landed in the right spot lengthwise.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the next two little 2-part stories were both written as 48-page single issues.
Right.
And again, once we decided to split them into the 24-page issues, again, in both stories, I got super lucky. And at the 24-page mark, there was a logical break to make where it made sense to stop it and do another issue. So I continue on and hope that I keep having that kind of luck writing, but I know that, logically that's probably not going to hold.
Just keep boarding those planes, and then you'll be fine.
And it's funny. Our boss, when I first, because there was a long time between writing issue 2 after issue 1.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that. And, it's hard that, because we had talked about getting a story out and getting it done and all that. And I had said, I think writing a second issue is much harder than writing your first, because you might have a good idea once and then you do it and then people like it and want more. And now you're like, okay, now what?
I think after this, I think it. And the way MacBryde and Grum is framed, because it's a single issue and it really is a self-contained single issue.
Yeah.
You've essentially told the story and you've kind of introduced this world, so you're kind of happy at that point. I find second issues, if it's part of like a series, like a 4-issue series, are way easier to write. But then, because that first issue, my ideas tend to be like the stuff that I'm going to show in the second or third issue. Like Hassan and I worked on a book called Epicenter, and quite frankly, the actual idea, doesn't happen until like the third issue. And I actually look back on this right now and I'm like, you know what? I have to write this better, or I have to figure out how to write better so that I'm not just I'm not just coming up with something to get to this big idea that I had. So it's I think it can go either way with different, depending on the situation. This is a question for the group, because you guys are all writers. Do you guys ever dream of stories and then wake up and have it you have to write it down?
For me personally, I sleep very little, so my body tends to deep sleep when I am sleeping. Okay. So I don't often remember my dreams, but I do have dreams that I wake up and like, man, what a great idea that is to fit into something somewhere, And then 15 minutes later, I've lost 2/3 of it, and I'm like,
that's the worst feeling. Because the other night I literally woke up in a daze, and I remember. Now I do remember it. I remember the name. That was the first. That's never happened before. But I remember the name. I said it's gonna be called Kill Shot, and it's about a guy who's got one magic bullet to prevent the apocalypse. And literally, it's a magic bullet, and he's got one shot at ending the apocalypse. And then I don't remember the next 2/3 of what that was, but I remember he's wearing a bullet around his neck, and it's called Kill Shot because that's going to be the kill shot, and there's going to be some sort of demon that rises. And I remember waking up being like, oh man, that's a really awesome thing. And by the time I wrote it down, that's all I got. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the story right now that I had.
But you
don't dream of stories though, huh?
No.
Oh, wow.
Or stuff that would be good for stories?
I tend not to remember dreams at all. I know I've experienced dreams, but I don't come out of them with anything, I've one or two maybe in the entire time I've been alive that I was like, oh, what the heck was that?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Is that like a trauma or something? Is there
Well, here's the thing. I'm always daydreaming. I'm always like mulling over.
That explains half our episodes, I gotta be honest with you.
Well, I mean, the daydream is triggered by boredom. So
I know exactly. That's what I'm saying. I know. I got you to laugh before, though. I saw it.
But anyway, if I had a more stimulating partner, I believe that I would be more locked in. You know what I
keep bringing Steve on.
But yeah, I'm constantly, I'm just constantly working on it, and everything, like 90% of what I work on is just not going to end up in the final product, because it's just a matter of layering until you get enough of something that's decent, so that when you strip it all away, you still have something pretty solid. That's kind of what my method is. So it's everything in the kitchen sink in the very beginning, and just a matter of subtraction as you go along.
I think that's why I'm not very good at or not. I don't feel that I'm good enough to write prose, because I feel like I can't put all that time into creating stuff that I'm not going to use.
Well, I mean, it gets used one way or the other. Everything with prose is just how you say it, right? So just about every idea is going to be there, but some of the ideas are just going to be hinted at, versus ideas that you're definitely going to spend time fleshing out.
Right.
And then all of that stuff comes in later down the line. That idea you had that you abandoned, if you write long enough, you're going to use that idea somewhere. So,
fair enough.
It's not easy, and a lot of really good writers, so this is not coming from me, but a lot of really good writers say the most miserable thing about writing is writing. It's great to be a writer. It's great to have written, but the act of doing it's not really a pleasant experience. And I could testify to that.
If voice text could work really well for me, and it doesn't, I would write all the time, because I would just speak into it. I used to do like the tape recorder thing, but then I was like, man, now I got to transcribe this. What a pain in the butt. But
it's funny, when I was a kid, I had a paper route for years and years and years, and what I used to do, especially in the fall and through the winter, when I would have to walk my route because there was snow everywhere, I used to make up like movie scenes as I was walking around, and I would speak all the parts, but I would just create movie scenes with myself and just and run them all out, and I would put intone different accents and all sorts of stuff like that. And I think back now, and I'm like, I wish I had all those on tape somewhere. I could go back to them and just see either how ridiculous they were, or crap, maybe I could use some of that stuff.
Well, our lives would be completely different if we had smartphones in the 90s. There would be so many.
Absolutely.
I mean, some of us would be in jail, but
Possibly.
But on the other hand, a lot of
Ryan,
stuff,
you, my man, right in the middle. You our guest. You wouldn't be our guest right now.
a lot of things that are just a matter of figmented imagination would be actual pieces of tangible nostalgia that you could turn to keep creating.
I've got my bin full of stuff I've written, and I tuck it away. And every once in a while I'll pull it out and I'll be like, oh wow, this is actually I did a pitch I did a pitch. I didn't do anything with it. I was like, oh, I only remember it right now, and let me put it down on paper, because if I don't, I'll forget it. And that was 10 years ago. It's there, and I found it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty good. Then I stuff it right back in the bin and keep moving along.
Sometimes you'll do something, and like you said, you'll see it, and you just what I kind of how I refer to is I just don't feel it. So like you said, I'll put it back in the drawer, come back to it later. There's an idea that I spoke about once with Hassan well over a decade ago, and he still wants me to do. And I haven't quite figured out the best way to approach it. And you see he's smiling because he knows what it is now. I threw this idea out, and I'll talk about it, because honestly, I mean, if somebody figures out a way to do it, great. So the idea, I came up with the title of Templars and Tanks. And basically what the core idea was that back in 13, whatever it was, where the Pope gave the order for all the Knights Templar to be executed in their things, and the whole thing was broken up, and everyone got loose and spread around. Well, my proposal was that the Templar Knights had a inside man in the Vatican who was able to warn them, and that never took place, and they were actually able to turn it around, and they eliminated the Pope and the papacy, and they took over. So basically now you fast forward, and now the entire roughly like a modern version of the Roman Empire, but it's all Templar knights and built on Templar foundation, but it's all with modern warfare and vehicles and things. And there's all these groups out there who are fighting against that hyper Christian belief system and all that that's built around the old Templar, teachings and all that. So that was my, but the Templars and tanks is where I hooked him instantly in 2 words.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell
Talk
you,
about a phrase that like just exploded in my brain. I'm like, oh my God, I see it all. I see it all.
It's like aliens versus AI. That's
and again, I have actually written out like whole expository sequences that I foresaw as being part of the overarching story, but it's all just, it's all loosely thrown away in a bunch of. It's on different hard drives, and it's just all over the place.
Yeah, I think we make too much of like trying to have this kind of singular moment of creative awareness or whatever. Yeah. And when we don't have it with something that we've worked on, we just kind of, all right, move on. This is obviously not the thing, so I'm just going to move on. I just found a couple of maybe a week ago, I found on my Dropbox, a novel that I wrote probably, I don't even remember when, maybe 7 years ago. I never did anything with it because I was just like, nah, it's not working. And there's literally like about 400 pages worth of stuff that's just there that I just kind of threw away, and I don't remember writing it, but I know I wrote it.
That's just amazing to me.
I've got a screenplay that I wrote in a weekend when I was 19 because I got in contact with an agent, and he's like, "Yeah, well, send me some stuff," and I was like, "Well, I've got something for you. Just give me a couple days to review it, and I'll get it over to you on Monday." It was like a Friday, and I literally wrote a 120-page screenplay. And I'm afraid to this day, I sent it to him. To this day, I have never reread it, never heard from him either. So, I mean, this is back, again, this is, days before email even. Okay. This is like, this is when,
so you sent him a physical copy?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I mailed it out to him. Cause I didn't have, no, I guess I did have an email, but I don't think he did. It was like one of those, like it was 98, like 1998.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you're not, email's not a thing yet, kids. It's crazy. It exists, but it wasn't a thing.
Right.
And it's not a thing anymore. But
we just went right around us. Though,
I refuse to read that screenplay now. It's sitting. I have it right on this, right on my laptop right here, and I'm so terrified by what I will read.
Oh, send it to me. I want to read it.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I will. But you have to be very kind because I am like literally terrified. I have no idea if it's any good.
There's no such
I have no idea if like 19-year-old
I will be nothing but fully 100% honest with you, Mike.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Because honestly, I would expect no less from any of my friends if I gave them something to read.
Yeah.
No,
I get it. That's what I'm saying. I refuse to read it.
Because honestly, at the end of the day, if I have something to a point where I like it and I'm happy with it, and someone comes back to me with criticism on it, if I find their criticism beneficial and I think, well, hey, that actually is a pretty good idea. Maybe I can make a change to that. And, but for the most part, if someone comes back to me and says, oh yeah, it was fine. And I know that they're just trying to, say it wasn't their cup of tea, or if they, if they can't give me specific things that they have a problem with, then I know either one of two things. One, it's not something that they would gravitate to naturally.
Right.
Or two, they literally have, usually if someone, especially these days, and especially with where we are, most people, if they have definite opinions about something, are not going to be shy and not tell you. And I hope that most of the people that I deal with, that I would feel comfortable with giving somebody to read something ahead of time, would know me well enough to know that they can just tell me what they think, and I'm going to take it. And if I do something with it, great. And if not, and if I just don't agree with your opinion on that, I'd really prefer to leave it as is, and we'll go from there. So
the best way to survive criticism is to take into consideration exactly what the person is criticizing. Because sometimes criticism is really good, and that can be kind of the most painful kind of criticism. It's like, this is just not good. This is not working. I didn't understand this, and then sometimes it's like, well, I mean, there's a spaceship in it, and I hate spaceships. That's not. What are you going to do? That's not criticism you can do anything with.
Exactly. So no, listen, and my own myopia is a clear and known issue when writing my own stuff. Like I've had, my editor on MacBryde and Grum come back to me and say, hey, just a quick question about this particular thing. And I'd be like, oh yeah. Cause I'm writing it, I'm creating it. So all of the information, all the questions that happen, I know the answers,
right?
Because it's all already in my head, but the readers don't.
Right.
And so, the editor will come back and be like, well, we don't really ever see that happen. How are we supposed to know that this is, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I do kind of have to show that somewhere, or else nobody's going to know that, because I know that, but people aren't mind readers. So yeah,
that's kind of the hardest part of all of it. Like, world building isn't that hard, and writing is basically a process of repetition. So and then because we have so many writing styles, nobody's expected to be Shakespeare anymore. People mainly want clarity. They just want it to be clear so that they can understand what the heck you're saying. So the hardest part about any story is after you've mulled on a story for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years or something like that, it's just telling people, giving people the information in a manner that's exciting to them, but doesn't give away everything that all of the secrets that you're trying to hold on to, while still being clear enough so that they're not totally confused that they stop reading. And that's the trick. And that's why writing is kind of a miserable process. But when you do pull that off, that's gold, regardless of what anybody says, regardless of if your story is going to be a huge success and, a bestseller or whatever. If you can get like 4 or 5 people to go, this was great.
That's all you need.
Yeah, pretty much.
Times 10,000.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, of course. But,
well, if those 10,000 people tell 10,000 friends,
and they tell their friends,
that's
and so
it. You just need,
you need
10,000 super fans, and we could all be George R.R. Martin. All right, folks. When we come back, we're gonna grill Steve on his pop culture knowledge. No, we're not. We're gonna talk about all the cool stuff that's going on. What's he consuming? And probably have some sort of riveting conversation.
I say
based
cookies.
off of that.
I say what he's consuming at cookies. He's a cookie man.
That's not nice at all.
He knows me only too well.
He's a cookie man.
When we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, talking with Rogue creator STEVE HOVEKE, creator of MacBryde and Grum. You can catch an 11-page preview on the website right now of issue 2, and you could read all of issue 1 totally free on the website as well right now. And you don't even have to give your information yet. It's coming. It's coming. We want your data, but we'll give you cool stuff like MacBryde and Grum and ebooks and videos.
Your data, I mean, your data are belong to us.
Fair trade. Fair trade. What we're gonna ask for you. I'm probably not even supposed to even mention things like that, but whatever. I want us to grow. And
90% of the stuff you mention, you really shouldn't mention. So I mean, that's not a new thing. It's not.
So the big movie coming out and the big movie that just came out all have black in the title. Black Panther 2 is hitting next week. Steve, are you prepared to go watch that? If you're gonna go hang out with us next week or no?
I certainly can and will. I am anxiously looking forward to seeing where they go with it. The trailer looks in typical Marvel fashion. It looks like a Marvel trailer. I'm not a Marvel apologist, but I enjoy the films for what they are. I think, it's funny. When I was a kid, which is slightly further back than when you guys were kids, comic books were fun,
Right.
And for me, the Marvel films in general are fun. Regardless of how serious or how humorous they are or they try to be. I think overall, that's one of the big successes, as I see it, that have been for the Marvel films, is that they have brought, I don't go into a Marvel film expecting Platoon. I don't go into a Marvel film, expecting, My Left Foot. I go into a Marvel film to be entertained, and I'm lucky enough, I feel, to have enough background knowledge of the characters in general. And I kind of know, I'm going to know what's going on,
Yeah.
They've done a good job of bringing in new characters and sort of, what Feige's done in the grand scheme of movie making and film building is nothing short of amazing. And the foresight and the planning and the way he approached it's hard to fathom almost anyone else. How could anyone not use that model when trying to do something? And the fact that, and this is not necessarily a full-on but I would thought after phase 1, DC would have been full press looking for a guy like that's what they do. And instead, they just continue to switch. And clearly it has not been as successful for them. I think we all can agree that. But
right, it's been very right.
Exactly.
A lot of it.
It's been really interesting to see the hits, though, and to see what are the things that jumped to the. Did anyone expect the success of Todd Phillips' Joker? There's no way. There's no way people expect
not having. Yeah,
I kind of wish he wouldn't have pooped all over it by kind of mocking the genre as his movie was being successful. But yeah, that's kind of lending to what you're saying, Steve, about the disarray. Like instead of being like satisfied, like I made a really good movie.
Can be great leaders,
and people appreciate it. So maybe we should start thinking about having different perspectives and angles. Instead, he's like, this guy's a really good comic book.
His people
Do not call him general. Like, man, all the goodwill that you just called him built with the successful film, you're
the feather serpent god.
There should be kind of a brand understanding amongst all of us.
He's coming.
Everybody who has it
For the surface world.
be like a rogue element. Successful because they're successful only because they are
What you whisper.
outside
almost
The protector.
Getting back to this film and just looking at the trailer as we're talking about it too, though, something about the Black Panther franchise at least in my opinion, is Brian and his cinematography. The way these trailers, the way the first film was shot, has a gravitas to it that I don't think has been equaled by other directors. And I'm not saying other films aren't good or bad. Black Panther to me doesn't look. And I know are of a comic book nature with costumes and and supervillains and superheroes, but it looks more like a bigger movie, like a big blockbuster, which is crazy to say because Marvel's films are blockbuster films,
right?
But they're not all shot like that. This is
is always shot like it. I felt exactly that way about Shang-Chi.
Oh,
I
okay,
I was 2/3 of the way through that movie, and I had to remind myself that I was watching a Marvel film because it was so well done and so much fun to watch.
interesting.
I
You know what?
agree. Whereas
Yes, I would
Eternals,
say for me the
I
content
didn't
is more
hate
than
Eternals, but Eternals felt like an intentional comic book movie. I didn't dislike Eternals, but
yeah.
it did feel like it was leaning into its comic book roots in order
Yeah.
to save itself
Yeah.
much more than it was leaning into its own story.
I agree. And the Eternals has other issues to contend with as well, but yeah.
The one thing I didn't I can't say I didn't love about the Black Panther trailers, the Wakanda Forever. I can't say I didn't love it. They're in a no-win situation with Chadwick, Boseman passing away, right? Like they're just what are you going to do? However, from the trailers, you kind of get the sense of okay, they're acknowledging he passed away. Now, mind you, we'll find out next week. If that is the actual truth. But what's that?
This week.
Oh, it's this week, right? Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Well, I won't watch it till next week. So, we got till Wednesday, baby. We got till
Yeah,
Wednesday.
I get you.
That's the one thing where I'm gonna find that crap. I gotta go see this film. You just reminded me. Oh my goodness. I gotta schedule a time. That's the one thing that and again, I get it. Look, they're in a no-win situation, but I kind of liked the mystery of what are they gonna do? And now it seems like okay, from the trailer, he's passed on. And they're gonna recognize that he passed on. So there's no T'Challa. I'm okay with it. I think the MCU, I agree with you, is like the comic book universe now. But to me, it's the ultimate universe. So whatever happens there, it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of, reading, the actual comics or the comics I read as a kid or anything like that. It's two separate universes to me. But that's the one aspect to it. I wish I could have gone in 100%, not knowing. Like we talked about, and this is a good segue, Black Adam last week or 2 weeks ago. And Hassan, you commented that they gave away a key plot point in the trailer. But however, when I watched the movie, I had forgotten about that because the trailer had come out so many months earlier and Black Adam, it's not like I was watching the trailer with the same kind of intensity I would watch another, more known quantity superhero film. Like the Spider-Man trailer, like I'm watching that because I'm a Spider-Man fan. I've been a Spider-Man fan for a long time. Black Adam being a, villain of Shazam in the DC universe, right. Those are things where I'm watching the trailer going like, all right, there's the Rock, he's flying around. That's cool. And so by the time I actually watched the film and enjoyed the film, that piece of plot had escaped me at that point. So it was as if I was being surprised, for the first time. Even though
and there's some heavy lifting to do there too, because I mean, for the people who do know who Black Adam is, which is a already smaller subset of people who will know who Shazam is, he started off as a bad guy, right. And it's only recently and this is just what I'm getting secondhand through friends of mine who know more than I do. As they've started to turn him more into that sort of anti-hero type character. And,
well, he reminds you every single minute in that film that he's not a hero. Remember,
right? Well, okay, I've not seen it, so yeah. So, I think that, and I'm looking forward to seeing it because I think it looks fun, and I love Dr. Fate, so I'm anxious to see.
You won't be disappointed
Pierce
with
Brosnan.
You won't be disappointed with his performance.
It's a pretty
he's the highlight
awesome
of the movie.
Nice.
I liked Hawkman too. I liked Hawkman a lot. I thought,
I think the dynamic between Hawkman and Dr. Fate, I'll recorrect. The dynamic between the two of them is the highlight of the film. Now, The Rock is fine. They don't overpower The Rock as far as I'm concerned, but The Rock is there to profile and be preeminent, right? But the heart of the characterization and the heart of the film are Dr. Fate and to a slightly lesser degree Hawkman. So
what you're saying is they should really be steering towards a JSA movie and not another JLA movie.
Well, wait. So here's that's an excellent segue though, because and now Hassan, would you actually consider that? I think what they managed to do is they managed to actually have a movie hidden within a movie by introducing the JSA, and it's almost like a JSA movie. but it's also still Black Adam at the same time.
I think in spite of themselves, right? They had elements that they needed. They needed to have Black Adam be in the movie. The Rock wants to be Black Adam, which means he's got to be a protagonist to some extent, or if not, an anti-hero, right? He can't be a villain because we don't know. You can't have a story about a villain where you don't even know the heroes, you know?
Yeah.
So, in order to kind of balance the movie out, they were forced to put these other characters in. And the DC characters, in comparison to the Marvel characters, are so absurdly stylized, you know, so absurdly, you know, like they're overpowered, you know, I mean, I don't have anything against them. They're gods. DC's heroes are basically gods who are now wearing the guise of superheroes. That's like the DC motif. Whereas the Marvel heroes are humans who, you know, who elevate themselves to, you know, potential godhood or whatever. It's kind of the reverse of the two. So in order to have these like really like kind of absurd visuals of a man with hawk wings and another guy who, you know, has got this, you know, this ability to multiply himself and to see, you know, various, you know, aspects of the future. And then another guy who can turn, you know, into a giant, and another person who can move really fast. If you're smart, you have to balance that out with some kind of you know, like heartfelt interaction between them. The Rock story kind of already comes because of how they put it together, and you know, because of what they gave away in the trailer. And if you don't know, if you don't remember it, and if Steve hasn't seen it yet, I'm not gonna mention it. So just Steve, just don't watch the trailer between now and when you watch the film, and you'll be fine.
I probably won't. And honestly, it's been so long since I saw the trailer when it dropped. Like you said,
yeah,
I couldn't even tell you right now what that could be. So
yeah. So then if you're unaware, then I won't ruin that. So, but they did kind of give it away, and that's why I was sitting in the theater going, wait a minute. Didn't they say?
Why did you show this in the trailer?
Yeah, and then it turned out, but his story of I'm a god, I need to figure out what to do with these godlike powers is one story. But then you have all these other guys who are going to come after him. You got to give them something to do. You got to give them something to talk about. You got to have, you know. And so I think inadvertently, because they needed to balance out this preeminent hulking guy in this, you know, this incredible outfit, who, you know, has this incredible entry scene where he just rises out of the ground and decimates a whole bunch of people. You got to balance that out with some characterization on the other side of it. And I think they, almost in spite of themselves, came up with some really amazing characters. They characterized pre-existing characters very well. That is the clumsiest way I've ever described anything, but that is what it is.
Let me ask.
And then you hire Pierce Brosnan. I mean, you know, you are definitely.
Let me ask both of you this question and see if you can be objective enough about the idea to actually approach it this way. So, could someone come into Black Adam who maybe only knows MCU films? Are they going to go into Black Adam and feel that way about those character introductions? Or are they still going to feel like they're like MCU light?
No, you know what? Again, I think it kind of brings back to my point about Black Panther. Black Adam is also shot in a way that I feel like stylistically is very different. There's a slickness to it. There's the color tones are deliberately different than what you would find in an MCU film.
Okay.
And so what I actually found was I knew the JSA or the Justice Society. Yeah. I knew them. I read a couple of their comics. I knew the characters, but I don't know them because I was always more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy. But by doing it the way they did it, and I'm amazed they pulled it off. I really am. I'm amazed they pulled off a movie within a movie. I was like, this is cool. Like, I want to see a Hawkman movie. I want to see Pierce Brosnan in another JSA film. I want to see, you know, these characters.
Yeah,
you know,
they definitely
and so Aaron,
they definitely didn't get lost in the scenery. You know, that it definitely isn't a situation where you're like, why would you even hire Pierce Brosnan to be in a movie like this? You know,
right.
You know, or, you know, and even the two side characters who don't have as much dialogue, and are, you know, are presented as the rookies on the team. Even they get their own, you know, they get fleshed out to enough of a degree where you kind of give a darn about, you know, what happens to them and what's going on. So, I mean, it might be a matter of like comic book genre fatigue and the fact that unfortunately DC doesn't have a formula for these things. So they're constantly throwing things against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't feel uniformed. It doesn't feel like, you know, every time they have a success, it's like, wow, I'm surprised. You know, it's not one of those, whoa, they've done it again. And, you know, I'm pumped for the next one. It's like, well, you're on a roll. Don't mess the next one up, you know, kind of attitude. And unfortunately, Black Adam is not doing as well as they wanted to. So even though The Rock is
really,
adamant,
I think it's doing really.
No, it's not. Not according to. In order for it to break even, it's got to do a lot more business than it's already doing. But it doesn't mean it won't, because everybody wrote Jurassic Park off, and the Jurassic Park is $1 billion movie now. You know, it just took a longer time to get there than they figured. Everyone's still on
Dominion?
Yeah.
Oof.
It made $1 billion. Yeah, I mean, look, but I'm saying they wrote it off. Now everybody's thinking of the 2019. Everyone's thinking of the 2019 formula of it'll make all its money in the first 2-3 weeks and then it'll die out. But people are kind of taking their time to flock to the movies now. You know, they've got other priorities at the moment. You know, people are still a little wary of you know, the big C, and you know, there's extenuating circumstances, but movies are slowly climbing over that finish line. It's just taking longer than the punditry is used to. So everyone is always declaring something a failure, and then a couple of months later, when it crosses the finish line, they're like, "Wow, who saw that coming?" It's like, "Wow, I don't know. You're the only one who missed that one."
Yeah.
You know?
As soon as people stop talking about something because 1,900 other new things have come up, everything flies by under the radar.
Yes, exactly. I mean, look, the Dominion it wasn't day and date, but it was like 45-day, had a 45-day window.
Mm-hmm.
It still climbed over $1 billion after it was released digitally. You know, I had a copy of it at my house before it, and it still actually, you know, reported to have gotten over the $1 billion mark, which is good for Colin Trevorrow. But you know, I mean, I remember the rhetoric about that movie when it first came out. And people were like, nobody cares about this stuff anymore. Obviously, dinosaurs just don't work. And, you know, it's just too bad because it was a good franchise. And it's a shame to see it end like this. And then maybe 4 weeks later, they're like, holy crap, this is $1 billion movie. How did we miss this? It was terrible.
Yeah, considering the quality level, I mean, it's a huge missed opportunity in my book. But that's a whole other movie. That's a whole. It's not
a great movie. I only go. It's kind of, even though I think the Peter Jackson King Kong is a superior film in a lot of ways, I'm mainly there just for the giant ape. You know. So like for Jurassic Park, I'm just there for the dinosaurs. I really don't care about whatever their weird subplots are and all those shenanigans. But
the one thing though, before we take a quick break, just on your point with Jurassic Park though, the one thing it did do, I thought better than what Star Wars was able to do, was merge two, you know, different generations of Jurassic Park movies.
Well, they managed to do it without murdering them all.
Yes, that helps too. That helps too.
Unlike Star Wars, like
but again, and this is a much larger conversation. The problem is they finally in that last act get everyone in the same shot together, and then they don't know what to do with them. Yeah. They're like, okay, everybody's together.
And now with the
what should we do now?
Another big dinosaur
and the movie.
I don't know. Let's make s'mores.
And the movie. That's it. All right. What do you guys think? Drop your feedback in the comment section. Subscribe as well. I never remind people to do that, but hit the little subscribe button if you're on YouTube and watching us, or if you're on Facebook, follow us. If you're on Twitch, do something. I don't even know what we do on Twitch. So Twitter, follow us as well too. You can do that.
Go Twitch on Twitch.
That's for gamer nerds. But yeah, no, do all that fun stuff. When we come back, we will say goodbye to a comic book legend. Keep dropping like flies out here, and that's not a good thing. This was one of my favorites. So.
No,
Well,
what the heck? That's
we've
not
lost,
very
we've
sensitive.
lost a lot.
Dropping like flies. What?
Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. I stand by my comment. We lost Kevin O'Neill a couple days ago from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. We lost George Perez this year.
Incorrect. It's just insensitive. That's all.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
of course, there are people. We are losing people. That is not an inaccurate statement. It's just like the way you say it. You know.
Was I too flippant? Was that what? Was I uncaring?
We've labored on it enough. I will not roast you further on it.
That is fair. That is fair. I accept my humble pie on that one. So the artist in question that we lost, I guess today, was Carlos Pacheco, 60 years old.
Which I'm past. I'm beyond enraged about this one. I don't know what. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. No one has done anything particularly, but this one's not cool at all. This is terrible.
Very, very sudden, right? I mean, it was just in September he announced he had ALS and was retiring. His final cover is for Damage Control 2. My Carlos Pacheco history in terms of reading comics was that X-Men run, which we just showed before. The X-Men photo, the Joe Kelly X-Men run. Was not I don't know if I want to say it was my introduction to his work, but it was the work that put him on the map in my brain as holy cow, this guy is really good. And the thing that he did, his work did, which was so amazing, was from an artist perspective. And I draw, Hassan is also an artist as well too. The people that can just simply draw the figure, there's no shading, there's no cross hatching, there's no. Sometimes those can be gimmicks, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean they're good gimmicks, right? They can add style. Mark Silvestri is a very sketchy artist, right? I don't mean he's a sketchy person. I just mean his very sketchy, right? And that's what gives it its pop. Jim Lee uses cross hatching. Yeah, Carlos Pacheco would just draw the figure. And you'd be like, wow, that thing pops off the page. I don't even see shadows. I don't see anything. I just see a dynamically drawn figure, and it just pops. And it's like, holy cow, I wish I could just be that straightforward. And at the same time, that's my gimmick in a sense of what makes my art explode. Aaron, can you run that X-Men piece real quick? Just show that up there again. I mean, just something like this. I mean, look at it. There's barely any really hard shadows, with the exception of maybe on
no cheats. There are no perspective cheats or gimmickry. And I mean, cheat is a loaded word. Everybody cheats, all artists cheat. So so when we say cheat, we're using it in a non-pejorative way. Yeah. But he doesn't really have any of those. He's got straight drop black.
Cyclops' ass looks really small here.
Well,
why are you looking?
He doesn't
at
have a good ass,
though, man.
I'm just saying it looks.
It's not working out.
His ass should be covering Professor X, but
maybe that's the reason. Maybe they had to shave his ass down just for the sake of Professor X.
I think this was during the comics code.
They had to shave Cyclops' ass. That's perfect.
No ass. But no, look at even Gambit in the background, just the way he's hanging on his bow staff.
Yeah,
and it's it pops off the page, and it's so simple.
These are not easy to do. Good. They're very labor intensive. They're very you have to have a lot of design. You have
to know the characters
to pull
too.
These off. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you have to know their traits so that you can put a small image of someone back there in just the right pose, and you're getting across everything everyone knows about that character.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
another weird element about this is that because we don't tend to see these guys, we don't know a lot of these people by to look at them. We don't know them, a lot of them personally. We tend not to apply age to them, even though they've been around 30, 40 years or something like that. So it's almost like they're always immortal. They've just always been with us. Like they've just been drawing, and we've been reading their books and enjoying their work for so long. And you don't realize behind the scenes in real life, these people have real circumstances, real health issues,
and that's why I said when Mike had the show to started, and I was like, that's weird. I can't. And even he's passed away at the age of 6, which is older than me, not by much, but it is. It's still, because he didn't come sort of into our orbit here in the U.S. until halfway through his career. We didn't see his earlier stuff that he really launched onto the scene with in Europe, where he started. Yeah. So, I mean, we only got sort of him fully developed,
or
at least like mostly developed.
He dropped on the scene fully formed. You're saying
exactly, and we're like, wow, amazing! This guy's amazing. But and like I said to you guys, I'd never crossed paths with Carlos at any cons over the decade.
No, I didn't either.
And so I had no sense of how old he was. So when you told me he passed away, I was like, wow, I didn't know he was an old guy. But that obviously there are other circumstances.
But 60's still young. I mean, I
agree 100%. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're maybe a little less surprised when someone gets over 60, but not by much. I mean, it's still very young to lose somebody, especially in our day and age. When you've got Patrick Stewart running around almost at 90 doing action scenes, like we're in a completely different world when it comes to that kind
at
of
this
thing.
Day and age. It's far more the exception than the rule.
Right.
Correct.
So it's almost like it's the equivalent of someone dying at 40. It's kind of rough to lose someone at that age. And
it's always rough too when someone dies and they're younger than you. I mean, obviously this isn't the case here, but this is close enough.
Yeah, no, and look, in general, condolences, to his family, obviously, but also for us. I mean, it's tough when it's again either people we've grown up enjoying their work,
right?
I feel like that when musicians pass away. You kind of get that feeling of like, enjoy them while they're here. It is a reminder.
Yeah.
To kind of take
like when
that.
You realize you're never going to get another Rush album,
right?
Because Neil Peart is gone, or something like that. I mean,
who thought we wouldn't get another 10 Chris Cornell albums?
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean,
so once it hits you that you've lost someone, then you realize like how deep that loss goes. Like we're really, something is really missing here, especially when it's an artist. So yeah.
Well, condolences, like we said, out to his family, his friends, and to obviously, the comic book world itself. But let's not, let's enjoy his let's go out and enjoy his work. It's still ultimately the work still will be there, which is amazing. So we can, if you don't know who he is or haven't seen his work or aren't familiar with it, get online, get on the Marvel app. You can get all those comics we talked about. He did a lot of DC work too, and his last comic book cover is out there. So enjoy it and soak it in. And that's all we can do at this point. All right, next week we'll probably welcome this guy back. We're gonna have our birthday bash next week. This is a birthday bash. This is I don't know how this happened. But Hassan and I were born a day apart, and that happens to be next week, and it is Hassan's actual birthday. So we will have a birthday bash in Sire Studios, if Steve can fly back from LA with a new novel that he wrote on the plane as he gets here. But yeah,
hopefully at least a few more pages on the issue 6 script. I'm
not gonna lie, I don't even think I have enough microphones, but I'm gonna try to invite some more folks because why the heck not, right?
I was gonna say, if you need another microphone, let me know and I'll bring mine.
Oh, see, look at that.
Yeah, I'll bring mine up.
No, don't bring yours up, Hassan. Yours, I have yours, but yours won't work because it'll make an echo. It's got to be. It's got to be like.
Oh man.
Got to be the
Oh,
dynamic.
right.
It's our party, man. It's my
Right, it's
party,
the
and I'll bring a
equipment.
mic if I want to.
Oh, you got one already. I'm sitting right here. This has been Rogue Wave. We will
Good
see
God.
you folks next week. Hi guys, Mike Dolce here from the Rogue Wave podcast. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. Leave a comment, let us know what you'd like to see in future episodes, and tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern for a brand new episode of the Rogue Wave podcast.